50. These are private companies on the cutting edge of technological change. Right now, we've got an interview with the head of the company that's coming in at number 38 on this year's list, Ripple. The company uses blockchain to send money across borders for financial institutions, and it uses the token XRP to do it. Join us now, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple. Brad, great to see you. Great to have you on today. Let's start just generally about the crypto arena and what we've seen, because there's an article today, Brad, about, I guess it's hearkening back to the colonial situation, pipeline and ransomware, et cetera. And the thrust is that we just need to ban crypto. And it's set forth, here's all the reasons. I think about everything that you've set up with blockchain and DeFi and how this can really effectively replace a lot of existing systems like Swift or whatever, and it really works well. Do you think that, I mean, what do you make of someone that makes that case, given all the blockchain infrastructure and everything else, not just around Bitcoin, but do you think that this toothpaste ever goes back in the tube like that because you can use it for ransomware?
Not sure I've heard the toothpaste analogy before. I'm going to steal that one myself. Look, first of all, thank you for having me. I think the question you're asking is a really important one, and I think it gets to the kind of the core of sometimes just a misunderstanding about how these technologies can be applied in a way that actually is really good for businesses, for citizens, for just the community at large. And so when we talk about, like, should we ban something, let's make sure we understand what we're talking about. The way Ripple uses these technologies, as you introduced, is we can make cross-border payments, which are slow and expensive today. We can make them real-time, very efficient, very low cost, and that's good for the global economy. We can unlock trillions of dollars kind of trapped capital to make the economy more efficient. And so blockchain technologies can be applied in a lot of really constructive ways. It's reducing friction, whether that be transaction cost, transaction speed. Again, for Ripple, that's around payments. But, you know, I think to say, hey, let's just ban all this, yes, the toothpaste might already be out, and I don't know how you get it back in.
The other recent, I guess, data point was China with Bitcoin, and just overall, let's talk regulation, because Ripple is unique in certain ways in that you kind of control the amount of XRP that's out there and decide when it can be issued, and actually the SEC took issue with that, so to speak, in that you might be more like a security than a currency, and that's still pending. So just talk in general about all regulation and how it might affect you and Ripple even differently than it would affect Bitcoin.
Well, I think what you're getting at the core really is, in the United States, there has been a lack of regulatory clarity. This is something I've been talking about even on CNBC for about 2+ years. In other countries, you have seen in the UK, Japan, Switzerland, Singapore, I mean, these are, you know, G20 markets where they have invested the time and energy either through legislation or rulemaking to provide that clarity and that certainty. And that allows investors to participate, that allows entrepreneurs to build, that allows people to build companies that make the CNBC Disruptor list. So here in the United States, we haven't had that clarity. I think, you know, just to correct something you said, Ripple actually doesn't control XRP. XRP is an open source technology, very analogous to Bitcoin. In contrast, XRP is very efficient in terms of speed of transaction. It is a carbon neutral blockchain. So these are all examples of it being more efficient, but all of the XRP that has ever been created has already been created. So it's a zero inflation dynamic. But the core of what you're talking about around regulation, I think, is what we're experiencing here in the US with the SEC. The SEC is making the assertion that these are investment contracts, that Ripple's sales of XRP to our customers is actually an investment contract. And you know, a security is something where when you buy it, you own part of a company. You have a right to the profits. You can vote on the board of directors of that company. All of those things that are, you know, certainly CNBC covers in depth. That isn't true with XRP. You know, if you buy XRP, you don't have ownership of Ripple. And I mean, ironically, you actually have XRP owners who have tried to sue the SEC for even bringing the case.
Brad, what's the total number? It's billions, obviously, and you do have a lot that hasn't been mined yet and can control when some of it is mined. That's correct, is it not?
No, that's not right. The way XRP works is fundamentally different than the mining contract, their the way you're describing it. So proof of work is the mining. That's how Bitcoin works. That's how Ether has it worked, and it's kind of migrating to proof of stake. The XRP ledger uses something called consensus algorithm. And so all of the XRP ever created is 100 billion units. Ripple owns a lot. And so that's on kind of our treasury, and we can control how we sell it to customers. But there's no more XRP that can be created.
Right, but if you decide to flood the market with some of your XRP, I mean, people have to trust you that you're not going to do that. The other thing the other criticism, and Tom Farley wants to get in, is that, and he's a big DeFi guy, you're not decentralized. You're fairly, it's a centralized system, which is one of the criticisms. But I'll let Tom get into that. How do you view XRP and Ripple, Tom?
Oh man, I have so many thoughts on this. I think Brad and Ripple are a bit of a punching bag by the SEC, but the lack of regulatory clarity extends throughout crypto. The most interesting case to me, Joe and Brad, is in DeFi, where these companies are creating governance tokens, which is a fancy word for shares, and they're distributing those shares to wide bases of shareholders, and then they're listing them for trading on US-based and international exchanges. Sounds, as a former head of the New York Stock Exchange, sounds like an IPO to me. You look at the company, Uniswap, they conducted an IPO. They're trading $15 to $20 billion. The SEC has really been nowhere. My question for you, Brad, both for your own lawsuit and for defining securities versus currencies, but also defining what's an IPO, what's not. Is Gary Gensler going to bring clarity here?
Look, I don't know. I think the good news for the industry is Gary Gensler is incredibly knowledgeable about this. I mean, he literally has taught classes at MIT about crypto, about blockchain. Look, one thing that was said that I want to make sure I correct is Ripple does not control the XRP ledger. We actually only manage about 6 of 150 validators. And so it's not centralized. It's very decentralized. And we've actually had changes made to the XRP ledger that Ripple has opposed. But, you know, Tom, to your point, I think we need that regulatory clarity. I actually happen to agree with you around things like Uniswap. About 2 years ago, I spoke very publicly, I guess it was 3 years ago, I spoke very publicly about the fact that ICOs, these initial coin offerings, sound an awful lot like an IPO. And in fact, I view that as kind of bad for the industry. But that's very different than the fact pattern, what we saw and how XRP was created, how Ripple, a separate company, was created. And, you know, I think the SEC, as, again, Mary Jo White saying that the SEC is wrong on the facts on this.
Hey, Brad, it's Andrew here. Separately, can you just speak to the larger cryptocurrency sort of craze that it feels like we're seeing? Maybe it's a craze, maybe it's not, in terms of Dogecoin, you know, just how far it's gone, what we're seeing with Bitcoin in terms of just how volatile that's been, and sort of the larger market, where you think Ethereum is. If you were not invested in Ripple, where would you be invested if you were going to be?
Well, Andrew, I mean, so first off, I do think Dogecoin's an example of some of that speculative, I'll even say the word bubble, that I don't think is constructive for the long-term industry. This is still a pretty nascent marketplace, right? Yes, it's grown very quickly. You know, now it's around $1.5 trillion, maybe a little more than that, as the market has recovered a bit. But, you know, look, I think focusing on utility, focusing on solving real problems, I think Bitcoin has clearly carved itself out as a unique store of value. The tailwinds of, you know, where fiat currencies are continuing to be printed, and I think you're starting to see maybe the ugly head of inflation rear its head. You know, M2 money supply grew about 24% year on year. And I think many people are asking themselves, do I want to hold a non-inflationary asset or a less inflationary asset like Bitcoin, or a non-inflationary asset like XRP? Now, that is not true for Dogecoin, where, you know, look, I think many people understand it was created as kind of a joke. It gained some momentum because of people like Elon Musk bringing attention to it. But I think long term for the industry, it's about solving real problems at scale. And yeah, that's certainly where Ripple is focused on how we use the XRP token.
Right. The other question I wanted to ask you was just about energy consumption, because it's become a huge issue. Obviously, Elon Musk raising it as an issue, a little late, in fact. But we're seeing in China, for example, in Inner Mongolia, they seem to be trying to stop mining, for example. I know that Ripple has a much more efficient profile. Do you look at Bitcoin and say it is terrible, it's an inefficient system, and therefore not green, and therefore if you're a big institution who's focused on ESG, you shouldn't be involved in it? Do you think, or are you in the Jack Dorsey camp that says that something like Bitcoin over time can actually be made green?
Look, first of all, Andrew, I'm really glad you're asking this. I mean, it is shocking to me, and I've been saying this, at the World Economic Forum last year, I said on stage, I think people just don't understand the energy consumption dynamics here. The Bitcoin usage of energy last year was equivalent to about 14 million homes in the United States. To offset that, from a carbon production point of view, to offset that, you'd have to plant 95 million acres of forest. That's basically the size of California. So this is a very real issue. I'm glad there's more attention around it because I think by coming together, we can address it. Bill Gates rather famously described a Bitcoin transaction as the least efficient mechanism for a transaction. We can make it more efficient, but it isn't by arguing about, is energy being consumed? Energy is being consumed, a massive amount. And what you're seeing, said in Mongolia, what you're seeing around the world is more and more awareness of that. I think Elon Musk appropriately reacted to the fact, like, look, wait a minute. As someone who probably has done as much to focus and bring attention around climate change, around energy consumption and carbon footprint as anyone on the planet, to have him support Bitcoin, I think was, not surprising that he kind of shifted course. I think Jack Dorsey, as time goes by, will have to, take a look at some of the fact pattern and the trend line and reevaluate himself.
So you weren't behind it. All right. I don't know. You took offense. Said you were kind of behind some of the pointing that out with Bitcoin. Yeah. Sure sounds like you might have been behind. You might not be behind it, but you sure piled on.
Well, look, I'm looking at the facts. I think there was an accusation made out of the crypto Twitterverse about Ripple is behind all of this, and look, you have Bill Gates speaking out about this. You have Janet Yellen speaking out about this. You have Elon Musk speaking out about this. Like, if Ripple could control those people, we probably wouldn't have a lawsuit from the SEC, as an example. And so, look, I think it's a real issue. The way we solve real issues is by internalizing them, understanding them, and then addressing them. By throwing FUD and saying, well, Ripple's just behind all this, I think that's not the real world I live in.
Okay. All right, Brad. Thank you. I believe you.
Thanks.
I believe you. Thanks. Coming up later, and thanks for coming on.